Hello, Sammy here from the Gateway team, and I am back with video number 3 of my top 3 protagonists in anime series. Last video I spoke about Edward Elric, you can check that out if you haven't seen it, but let's get into the final protagonist of the series. Just a reminder as always, there are of course spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the anime I'm talking about, proceed with caution, but if you don't mind, let's jump in. Now, the final of my 3 protagonists fulfills a trope which is also ubiquitous in anime, the overpowered protagonist. Now, this is everywhere in anime. It's often, to me, so boring. Some of the more egregious examples of this character trope are, of course, Kirito in Sword Art Online, Ainz Al Ghun in Overlord, and Anos Voldigoad from the Misfit of the Demon Academy. But this character happens to bring that trope to the table, but subvert it in a way that is incredibly interesting. So, if you like your protagonist overpowered but with a touch of existential dread, then look no further than Saitama from One Punch Man. Saitama is as overpowered a protagonist as one could possibly imagine. However, this show and character serve as complete subversions of the genre itself. One Punch Man is a rare anime in that it is acutely self-aware and executes one of the greatest subversions of shonen, kaiju, and superhero animanga that's ever been produced. Saitama always dreamed of being a hero, as in this particular universe, being a hero is the most high-profile career one can pursue. The world is under constant attack from massive kaiju-like monsters, and the Hero Association, with its rigid structure and hierarchy, employs heroes to combat this seemingly constant and existential threat. After a chance encounter with a monster, Saitama, a listless businessman, manages to get lucky in overcoming the much more powerful foe. This leads to a thrill he has never experienced before, and Saitama sets off to become a hero. After 3 years of semi-intense training, Saitama has rather inexplicably become the most powerful being in the world, possibly universe, capable of defeating any enemy with just one punch. It's just now that he's this badass, nothing is a challenge. He's as bored as he was when he was a listless salaryman. What does one do when they ascend to the top of their field? How does one gather meaning? Saitama's newfound invincibility is far more of a curse than it is a blessing, as what he started doing for fun now holds no value or meaning to him. So you may be asking, how does an audience relate to a superhuman monster who literally cannot be beaten? Well, this is the genius of One Punch Man. Many of us have had the feeling of pursuing something in life that we love, and some of us even achieve that pursuit. But what happens when you fall out of love with that thing? What happens to a person when they have no purpose anymore? How do you continue living? Saitama has become too powerful, that nothing means anything anymore. The things that excite him now are the specials at the grocery store. It is the mundane that he derives pleasure from these days, not defeating gods of the sea or galaxy-destroying aliens. What happens when life has no conflict? Saitama must find meaning in the everyday experiences that he encounters, no matter how seemingly banal or vapid they might be. This is why One Punch Man works when it really shouldn't. This show takes every trope in anime you've ever seen and pulls the absolute piss out of it. There are no stakes in this show. Saitama will always win, no matter how powerful the opponent. This shifts the focus of the audience to the supporting characters of the show, for whom the stakes couldn't be higher. It is their struggle that still has meaning. It is them who are in danger of being defeated and killed. Saitama merely acts as a device to subvert the normal expectation of storytelling. But thankfully, it is executed with great humor and style. One Punch Man is, without a doubt, one of the funniest anime shows I've ever seen. It translates well to the West because even though it is pulling the piss out of Japanese storytelling tropes, many of these tropes are seen in Hollywood stories too, particularly blockbusters and Marvel films. Marvel's MCU has become a bit too bloated to enjoy for some people.
It started off grounded in the real world with just a few exceptional heroes. Now the world feels noisy and chaotic. Just a blur of quippy dialogue and bright colors. Disney. It's hard to care about your characters when every second person has superpowers. When everyone is special, nobody feels special. One Punch Man feels like the antidote to this. There are countless bombastic heroes, each more ridiculous than the one before. But Saitama embodies that feeling of complete resignation many Marvel fans have. He's checked out. He knows that it'll all be fine in the end and that none of it matters. He still wears the cape and shows up. He's just aware of how ridiculous it all is. That feels relatable. Now, Saitama isn't the first superhero to address this. There's been plenty of comics and shows that ask a similar question. Some make light of it, like Kevin Smith, or even Adi Shankar, who we interviewed about his recent satire, The Guardians of Justice. If you're not familiar with Adi, he is a producer and creative force who got the amazing Castlevania anime made, amongst many, many other things. Check out the fascinating interview here. The Boys has found success on streaming for probing beneath the varnish of the glossy superhero world, and Alan Moore's The Watchmen famously does the same, particularly with Dr. Manhattan, another bold hero with godlike powers looking for existential meaning. He's like the emo Saitama. Now, these examples often try to subvert the superhero genre by going gritty and mature, which is great, but One Punch Man does something different. Saitama doesn't try to take it seriously. He knows that his world is a bit ridiculous. His character doesn't explore lofty themes like how power corrupts the noble. He reminds us that while our own lives can feel overwhelming, we should enjoy the little things. There's a sale on at the markets. Hell yeah. DC's approach has been to make dark and gritty superhero movies, but that rarely works. Superman is a friendly space god in a circus outfit. Destroying a city isn't going to change that. DC's gritty approach also feels a bit passé. Zack Snyder's movies were great in the 2000s when people were listening to My Chemical Romance and The Used, but we've moved on from the black eyeliner now. Somebody tell Batman. I mentioned way back in my first video that the protagonist of a show is rarely my favorite character. This is one such show where he absolutely is. You are constantly waiting for Saitama to show up when we're following one of the side characters on their journeys. As while we don't have as much of an emotional investment in Saitama as we do, say, Genos, with his typically tragic backstory and clear character objective, we still love and adore Saitama. Because he's super funny. But also, because we're all waiting for that time he gets challenged. Also, you might remember in my Naruto video, me talking about protagonists who don't change, but change the world around them with their goodness. Saitama subverts this trope too. By his very existence, Saitama destabilizes everyone around him. His friends, allies, foes, all who think they hold meaning in their lives, but through his strength, overwhelming strength, are sent into similar existential dives when he crushes them with complete indifference. He is an arbiter of truth that everything he touches must face. They might as well call this show Your Life Has No Meaning, Punch Man. Supported by a crazy world and some of the best animation and direction in the medium, One Punch Man is so much more than just a humorous genre subversion. It asks some very tough and very modern questions of an ontological nature. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Who am I? And what do I stand for? It's certainly not what you expect when you first tune into a show about a banal-looking bald guy destroying monsters with one punch. The animation in Season 2, it ain't so hot, but the story is worth sticking around for at least. My Hero Academia is another great anime that goes all in on a superhero world, but lacks that sharp satire. Now, what My Hero Academia does well is exploring how a world might adapt to people suddenly developing supernatural abilities. Focusing on a school of gifted youngsters learning to control their powers, while their teachers fight bad superhumans and bigoted factions. Wait a second, I feel another video coming on. My Hero Academia feels very earnest and very traditionally shonen though. It doesn't have what Saitama brings. Clever subversion. This is the genius of One Punch Man and the character of Saitama. The fact that the author, one, can get the audience to empathize and relate to the most powerful being in the universe is quite an extraordinary achievement. With One Punch Man Season 3 in production, it's time to catch up on why this anime is so amazing. A badass, OP, bold, funny superhero with a bunch of existential dread. I mean, what's not to like? Well, there you have it. That is the final of my top 3 protagonists in anime series. Now, just a little addendum here. There is a character that I have missed out who really should have been in here,
and that is, of course, young Wen Li from Legend of the Galactic Heroes, but technically he is a dual protagonist, otherwise known as a deuteragonist. Now, because of that, I couldn't include him in this, but he is definitely one of, if not my most favorite protagonist of all time. Another honorable mention is Kenzo Tenma from Monster, and in fact, I did Inspector Lunge from that in my top 3 antagonist series. You can check that out if you haven't seen it. But he is also another wonderful character who just missed the cut. If I missed one of your favorite protagonists, put them in the comment section. Let's talk about it. If you want more Gateway to Anime content, you can find us on all the good podcast platforms. You can also find us on TikTok, Instagram, and our website, gatewaytoanime.com.
We're a really small team, so if you enjoyed this, please consider supporting us on Patreon. There's a link in the description.
Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you next time.